Sujata, if you can hear me, my understanding is there is no password to the Zoom link. Is that correct?
No, there is no password.
Okay. Because Mr. Bedi's secretary just called me for the password. I said, I don't
no
think
password.
that. Okay.
Sujata, I have a question to you.
Yes, Dr. Annie?
When I'm stopping your screen sharing, is it affecting what you're sharing? No, right?
It does. So I'm
It does.
continuously seeing that my share screen is getting.
So I was doing that, Sujata, because I'm not able to get my video. So that is why.
Not a problem. So if you want
anytime I stop the, when I'm stopping the screen sharing, you just go back to it. Huh?
Yeah, not a problem. So, once Mohan starts speaking, I will be stopping my screen share.
Okay, then I think it will work better that way.
Yeah.
Done. Okay.
The banner is just for us for the people to know that they have landed in the right webinar. Good afternoon, Dr. Charlie from KPRIT. Good afternoon, sir. I have somebody in the name of Chandra Gauri MJ. Sorry, who's this? Good afternoon, Dr. Charlie.
They're all on mute.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good
You
afternoon.
have also.
Good afternoon, Professor. Mohan
Good
here.
afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Welcome to the panel.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, PVM. Dr. Annie, there is a small change. I think vote of thanks is by PVM and not by Alamelu.
Oh, is it? Do I
Yeah.
need to change it in the script?
Yes.
Oh,
Because
okay.
Alamelu she called me, but she messaged me also.
Okay, all right. I hope I will be able to keep that. Let me make that change right away.
PVM, I have made you the co-host. You can unmute.
Thank you, Sujata. And
Good afternoon, PVM.
hi, Mohan. And hi, Annie. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mohan.
Good afternoon. Thank you. And Dr. Jerome,
Sir,
welcome to
hello,
you,
sir.
sir. Yeah,
Good afternoon,
thank
sir.
you. Good afternoon. Thank you. Hope you have a wonderful time in the panel.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure would be mine.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Malini Pandey. You can unmute.
Am I loud and clear now?
Yes, yes, very much. Very well.
Good afternoon, madam, and welcome to the
afternoon.
panel.
Thanks a lot. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just rename your Zoom name.
Malini.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Dr. Annie, we have Dr. Malini Pandey from Dr. MGR has already come in.
Good afternoon. Annie.
Good afternoon to you, Dr. Malini.
Good afternoon to you.
Okay, my number can. Good afternoon, Dr. Pandey.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Thanks for being in the panel. Look forward to a great session.
Thanks a lot for inviting me. Thank you.
Sir, I just sent it. Huh? Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Shripati, sir. So you have to unmute
Sir, you're on
yourself.
mute.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. No, I was trying for quite some time to unmute. I couldn't do it. That's why now it's okay.
Sripati sir, welcome to the session.
Yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Annie Jacob is here. Dr. Malini Pandey is here.
Good afternoon, sir.
And
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Dr. Malini.
Good afternoon.
Professor Charlie Jerome.
Good afternoon, sir.
I don't see them. I can see only Mohan and Mrs. Annie Jacob. Others I don't see at all.
You just on a video, Professor Chan.
Sir, you click on, I think at the bottom of the screen, you will see participants.
True, that's what I'm trying to get. But
Ah,
Welcome, Mr. Vikram Kapoor ji.
Thank you.
Sir, you're
Welcome,
able
sir.
to unmute yourself?
Yes. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Vikram ji. Thanks for joining the call. Thank you, Mohan ji.
Good afternoon, Vikram, sir. Welcome. This is PV Mohan here.
Yes, Mr. Mohan. Yes, please. Thank you. So we have Dr. Annie J, Dr. Malini Pandey, and
Good afternoon, Mr. Vikram. I'm Dr. Malini from MGR University.
good afternoon, Dr. Malini.
Good afternoon, Vikram sir. Annie Jacob here.
Yes, good afternoon, Dr. Erin.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Charlie from KPR Institute, sir.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, Mr. Pankaj Bansal ji. Sir, you'll be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, is it audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Pankaj Bansal here.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Pankaj. Malini here.
Good afternoon, madam. How are you?
This is Ashok Upreti. Yeah, I'm fine. I was very happy to see you in the panel. We are not able to connect otherwise. At least today we get to
Good
meet.
afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Vikram Kapoor, sir.
Good afternoon, Gagandeep Singh Bedi, sir.
Ji, good afternoon to you and good afternoon to Pankaj ji, Vikram sir and Shripati sir and all other panelists.
Good
Good afternoon,
afternoon,
Mr.
sir.
Good afternoon,
Bedi.
sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bedi. I'm Malini here.
Oh, thank you. Nice interacting with you.
I'm in Taisha H block. Just for your information, Mr. Ashok Upreti, his wife, he knows you. I showed him the panel list. He said, oh, you are also in his block.
Okay, right, ma'am. Yeah,
good afternoon to everybody. We can see right now Dr. Malini and then GS Gagandeep Singh Bedi.
sir.
Of course, Mr. Mohan. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Those are my view. That's all.
Sir, you are able to get the video okay now?
Audio something.
Are you able to see everyone on your video grid option?
Mohan, everybody is here and we have 207 participants so far and it's already 2:03. Can we get started?
We should get started. We are 2 minutes late. We are on the hour, but
I think administrator may request the others to mute because the audio is getting a little distorted.
All of them are muted, Shripati sir. Except
think
for the panel members, all of them are muted and nobody will be able to unmute themselves.
Okay,
I think it's only Mohan whose, I think, voice is cutting a bit. Our voices, I think, are okay.
Okay.
should I cut off my
Yeah, I think
you
you're.
got to switch off your video for a brief time.
Yeah, I cut off my video now.
Yeah,
Just
now your
give me-
voice is better.
Or this laptop to another one. Okay. Because the audio, I don't know whether you are able to hear me.
The voice is a little stuttering.
Okay, let's switch out another laptop. Okay. Just hold on.
Mohan, when you have switched off your video, your voice is better.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Murphy's law always works. So
Yeah. But when you're speaking initially, you can try to switch on your video again. If it is cutting, we'll give you a feedback, then you can switch it off. Or maybe you can try switching it on again. Let's see how it sounds.
can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, we could hear you all right.
Okay, I will try luck. I mean, as long as it stays afloat for 5 minutes of my welcome speech. I'm
Yeah, I think it's sounding okay now. You can keep the video on.
So can we get started? Is Sripati sir back?
Not yet. He's gone to get his laptop. So we just wait till he comes back.
Just switching my lap.
Before we start serving IAS officers, I really apologize. I know I've been nagging all of you to.
Just give me a second.
I think Sripati sir is back.
Yeah, I'm back, but audio is poor. I'm just changing to another laptop, please.
Okay.
Just give me a minute.
Sure.
No, Mohan, in the meantime, maybe you can start. It will take just less than 1 minute. So please go ahead.
Can go ahead? Okay. Sujata, you want to
Yes.
start?
I'll quickly start, Mohan. I'll quickly start. Good afternoon, all. A warm welcome to our esteemed panel of the day here today. Moderator, PALS members, and last but not the least, our dear students and faculty members of the various partner institute. My name is Sujata Sundaresan. I'll be your virtual host for the next 2 hours. We are gathered here today to listen to the word of wisdom from the most experienced panel. Before we start, I quickly want to reiterate certain ground rules for the session. All of you will stay muted until the end of the session. For any kind of communication, you may want to feel free to use the chat box. And as it is being put in the chat box, kindly record your attendance. The format for the same has already been mentioned by my office. And I also request all of you not to turn on your video. Please keep it off. Question and answers for the session will be taken only through the chat box. During the Q&A segment, any questions that you may have, please type in the chat box and we will get them answered from the expert panel. And finally, we request all of you to provide your feedback in the form that we would post at the end of the session. With this, I conclude. I would request Mr. Mohan Narayanan from the PALS Governing Council to deliver the welcome and the introductory speech. Over to you, Mohan.
Thank you, Sujata. And once again, good afternoon, everyone. I have a 5-minute slot where I would do the formal welcome. So we have 3 serving IAS, senior IAS officers in the panel. And then we have a retired IAS official. And then we have 2 professors from the academia, so that we get a 360-degree view of the topic on hand. The topic itself will be discussed by our moderator, so I will not get into it. But just it's my pleasure, pride, and privilege to formally welcome all the panelists to this afternoon session. First, let me welcome Mr. Sripati sir. Arguably. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, Sripati sir retired as a Chief Secretary of Tamil Nadu, and he's somebody who has worked and rubbed shoulders with the 3 iconic chief ministers of the state, right from the 1980s to 90s to 2000s. So he was a commissioner of Madurai during the time of late Dr. M.G. Ramachandran. And then he, of course, worked in the central government services as well, where he was part of the Urban Development Ministry. And I know for sure that many of the urban development projects across the country starting from the metro rail project, which originated in Delhi many years ago and then percolated down to many of the other metros, has his stamp of a recommendation and a project plan into that project. He, of course, served all the way from a municipal commissioner to vigilance commissioner to higher education secretary during Ms. Jayalalitha's time, late Ms. Jayalalitha, and of course during the time of late Karunanidhi, he was the chief secretary of the state. So every single development activity that happened in the state would have gone through his hands at every point in time. So, of course, by education, he has a master's degree in chemistry and not humanities, ironically, from Laila. And of course, from someone whom we all tremendously respect and regard as an individual and as an official. Welcome, Mr. Sripati, to the session. Next, I want to go to Mr. Vikram Kapoor. Of course, Sripati is a 1975 batch IAS. Vikram Kapoor is 1988 batch IAS. While, of course, he is, of course, the additional chief secretary now in culture, tourism, and religious endowments. But to me, as a common citizen of Chennai city and many others, what comes to our mind is the way Vikramji handled the Chennai floods in 2015. And in fact, after that, his name became pretty much a household name, not only in the city, but across the city, state, and the country, for the tremendous leadership shown by him during the crisis that was created by the Chennai floods. Of course, his career itself has been very, very iconic. He is a St. Stephen's product from Delhi, has a postgraduate degree from IIM Bangalore, and of course from Syracuse University in New York. Of course, thank you. Welcome, Vikramji, for this panel. Third, I would like to welcome Mr. Gagandeep Singh Bedi. He is from the 1993 IAS cadre. He is an engineer from Patiala, and he has done EEE, the same branch that I did. So good to meet somebody who has done EEE, but who has done extensive work around Tamil Nadu. And again, like Vikramji, what comes to our mind when we hear Gagandeep Singh Bedi is obviously the work done by him in Kadalur and Kanyakumari during the tsunami in 2004. And we all used to see him in the television, and we all, in his chase Tamil, and we were all, outstanding contribution from you, sir, during that. And I know he got a lot of recognition, not only from the state, but also subsequently from the government, central government, in rural development and Manrega. So tremendous work done by Mr. Bedi. Welcome to this panel. And of course, last but not the least, from the civil services, Mr. Pankaj Kumar Bansal. So he also is from IIT. So he is from BHU IT. And then, of course, from Delhi IIT MTech, thermal engineering. I would definitely want to talk to you sometime about thermodynamics, which I never figured out during my entire career. So, of course, apart from a very illustrious career, like the way I spoke about others, what comes to our mind as citizens of Chennai, especially, is the work that Pankaj Kumar Bansal did in the Chennai Metro, which is arguably one of the best run metros in the country in terms of features and the last mile connectivity, sir, which is a big issue, which was a big issue across all the metros, so beautifully handled by CMRL, by partnering with the ride sharing apps and e-bikes and everything. So brilliant work done during CMRL. Of course, for all of you to know, Mr. Bansal is now the chairman, managing director of Tangent Co. So that is the four panel members from the civil services. We have two eminent professors from the academia. We have Professor Malini Pandey. She is from Meerut. She is an economics postgraduate and a PhD, a gold medalist in MA Economics, and then subsequently a tremendous career across education and entrepreneurship. And she is now the Deputy Registrar of Humanities Social Sciences at MGR University, and also has a reach out program and runs the IAS Academy there. Thank you and welcome, Dr. Pandey, for this session. We have Charlie Jerome, Professor Charlie Jerome, from down south, from KPRIT near Coimbatore. He's a professor of English, and we are all lovers of English as a language. So glad to have somebody with an English PhD in this midst. So he has he of course has done his undergrad and postgrad from PSG Arts and Science, and subsequently a PhD from Bharatiya University. So he also, apart from, of course, doing all the finishing school and reach out program for the students of KPR, he also is responsible for their reach out and program of their IAS Academy. So welcome, Professor Jerome, for this evening. And of course, last but not the least, definitely not the least, I want to introduce, and it's a real pleasure to introduce Dr. Annie Jacob, who is going to be the moderator for this session. And we wanted her, someone like her profile, to stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you as eminent panelists to handle this session for the next 2 hours. Dr. Annie Jacob is the director in charge of KCG, College of Technology, coming from the Hindustan institutions stable. She, of course, is an acclaimed woman entrepreneur. She got award for the best woman entrepreneur for both from the Times Group and ACT Academy way back in 2015. She has, to her credit, built beautiful innovation cells in KCG. And of course, on a very selfish perspective, she is also a doctorate in management and marketing from IIT Madras. So in some way, she wears multiple hats today. She will wear, as an alumnus, she will wear the hat of PALS. She will, of course, also wear the hat of the academia, and an entrepreneur, and somebody who has a lot of civil capabilities in terms of information, in terms of academia and industry. So she is obviously the best person to drive this discussion forward. So with this welcome note, I will now request Dr. Annie Jacob to take the floor and carry the discussion from now on. Over to you, Annie.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Many thanks to Mr. Mohan Narayan for his succinct introduction. A special wanakam to our esteemed panelists who actually need no introduction because of their inspiring track record speaks for itself. The Indian Civil Service, for part of the 19th century, officially known as the Imperial Civil Service, was the elite higher civil service of the British rule. Historians often rate the Indian civil service together with the railway system, legal system, and the Indian Army as amongst the most important legacies of British rule in India. The civil services remain the creme de la creme of professions in India, and it brings with it immense honor, integrity, and responsibility. The Union Public Service Commission examination is considered the toughest, but always remember, those who dare win. There are thousands of aspirants in each part of our country who are interested and dream about getting into civil services. To share some statistics, around a million students apply for the prelims, 50% take up the examination, approximately 2.5% qualify for the mains, roughly 3,000 are called for the interview, but the number of vacancies is only between 1,100 and 1,300. It is indeed a challenging predilection of many young graduates to join the prestigious civil services, mainly the Indian Administrative Service, the Indian Police Service, or the Indian Foreign Service, to mention a few cadre. While we all know a clear goal, self-motivation, hard work, regular practice, and tenacity of purpose, I would sum it all and say grit and chutzpah will definitely help an aspirant to crack the civil service examination. It would be brilliant to hear it from our distinguished panelists of today on what one does right to fructify their dream. What were their personal experience as engineers or non-engineers in opting for civil services, successfully cracking their examinations and building a great career? What are some of those critical challenges they faced during the tenure of their service? Today, as a part of PAL's Cares and Share series, it is an honor to have our distinguished panelists, Mr. K.S. Sripati, Mr. Gagandeep Singh Bedi, Mr. Pankaj Kumar Bansal, Mr. Vikram Kapoor, who will all walk our viewers through what does it take for one to emerge successful with a passion and desire of this sort. In spite of the humongous aspiration, due to lack of awareness, research, and guidance, most of the students are not able to traverse on the right track. It is the responsibility of knowledge institutions to cater to the needs of these students, help them keep their passion for civil services alive, and create ways by which they can structure their passion into action. Recent trends observed in the civil service examination results have seen increasing number of engineers clearing the exam. This also includes students from the top engineering colleges in the country, as well as the others. In the last decade, the top slots have been occupied by engineering or management graduates. Further, more than 50% of candidates recommended for various important posts are from the engineering background. Isn't it interesting to know why is it that traditionally an engineering student does not look upon civil services as a career option? And when they do so, why are engineering students able to crack the STUF exam easily? Are there personality traits like proclivity or other predictors for this? Does an educational institution like a technical one create an ecosystem or give a subtle nudge for the aspirants to take forward their dream? Let us hear from our expert educationists, Dr. Malini Pandey and Dr. Charlie Jerome, who have created a difference on their campuses by boldly incorporating this as a part of their academic progression. Strengthening the engineering connect with Indian civil services is what our session for today focuses on. In this session, we intend to analyze how we can ensure that more engineering students succeed in the UPSC examination and what challenges lie ahead once they join the civil service. We also intend to focus on how can our technical institutions assist in this objective. Without further ado, we will now commence our discussion. Our first question would be on how has the civil service legacy shaped up over the various years. Sripati sir, having entered IAS in 1975, you retired as the Chief Secretary of Government of Tamil Nadu in 2010, and over various capacities, you have led Indian delegations and managed several departments of Government of Tamil Nadu. You were instrumental in office automation as early as in 1986, when the IT sector was still in its nascent stage. We would like to hear from you the civil services transition, the past, present, and hence how the future. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Annie Jacob. Good afternoon to everybody who is present, including the audience. Now, if I have seen further than the others, it is mainly because I was on the shoulders of giants. The giants includes the chief minister's political sides, the bureaucratic side, and even personal side. But at the same time, let me say, I do not claim to be a rip snorter, okay? So whatever I have learned, I have experienced, I have gone through, I am going to talk about. Okay, a little bit about the Indian administrative service or the civil services today. If somebody claims that yes, IAS is a legacy of the colonial, this and that, etc., it is absolute falsehood. Let me tell you this. See, the earliest treatise on any administration, whether it is financial or defense or law and order, was from Manusmriti. Now, the much maligned Manusmriti talks about external affairs, it talks about defenses, it talks about finances, vagara, vagara, vagara. But anyway, I'm not going to delve into that. Then we have Arthashastra, which is even today not questionable. Ashoka's edict, Vimaladitya's administration, then Vijayanagara Samrajya, Cholas, Pandyas of the yesteryears, Sangam times. In fact, Sangam literature is replete with administrative procedures which were being done. They were all democratic, believe me. Though they were all monarchy, it was democratic process by which the entire bureaucracy was created. It ended up with at the top with the Amatya or Mantri or Pradhan Mantri or whatever they were called. Okay. So call that the civil services today is nothing but a colonial legacy is absolute rubbish. Okay, now come to more recent times. Take the Afghan kings like Sher Shah Suri, the national highways GT1, Grand National Trunk Road 1 from Lahore to Dhaka. It was done during the time. Many of the land reforms works were done during his time. So also Vijayanagar, like that. But when the Brits came, that is the Europeans came, they saw to it that most of these things are brushed aside. And they could not understand what the administration was like, what democracy was like, because they were all monarchies and monarchies only. And the loyalty was absolutely to the crown and not to the people, in total contrast to us today. Okay. Now, having said that, let me delve only a little bit on the past, not much on the past. Now, the Imperial Civil Service, as was very clearly mentioned, it was started after the Crown took over administration of India and India became part of the British Empire. It was whites only. Subsequently, after the 1857, somebody calls mutiny, somebody calls revolution, somebody calls, yes, it is a war of independence, whatever. Indians were also allowed. Imagine, Indians were allowed. Okay. But everything was London based. Even the judiciary, Privy Council, one had to look up to the Privy Council in London. If there is any serious decision to be taken, one had to look up to Viceroy, who in turn will look up to the Queen or the King, as the case may be. Okay, so much for the past. Now come to the present. 1947, after we became independent, there was a major discussion in the Constituent Assembly. Now, even before that, there were discussions in the then Congress Party about the civil service, and quite a lot of them were against the bureaucracy. Okay. Now, Article 312 of the Constitution talks about the All India Services. Mahavir Tyagi, it's all available today in the Constituent Assembly discussions. So if anybody is interested, please go through that, and then you will understand what I'm telling is true or how far it is correct in today's context. Mahavir Tyagi said, we were not against the colonialists, we were not against the British, this, that, everything, but we were against the tyrannical bureaucracy. How can you allow that service to continue? ICS should be asked to go back. That was his thundering message. Nehru, at an earlier stage before the independence, had also derided the Indian civil service bureaucracy to such an extent that everybody thought that Nehru would come to the rescue of Mahavir Tyagi. But comes Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and then he argues in such a wonderful way, stating that without bureaucracy, if you want to run this state, look for some other constitution, look for some other constituent assembly. It is a civil service which is a unifying factor. Forget about ICS, it can be something else. We will call it something else. But if you do not want it, please have another constitution. And then only this IAS and other civil services came into the constitution. Therefore, the civil services are nothing but a constitutional creature. It is not a creature of parliament. So let everybody understand that. Now coming to the present setup. Yeah, after I think the first batch was about 1949 of ICS and IAS coexisted. In fact, to quote one R.P. Norona, who was an ICS guy at that time, he said, whether it is ICS or IAS, we were all ordinary people from ordinary backgrounds, but yet we were set apart to take care of the people. That is, the tag is changed. The IAS owes its allegiance only to the Constitution. That is why the day we enter the civil service and go to the National Academy of Administration at Missouri, we have to sign a declaration, oath of allegiance to the Constitution, none else. So that is the difference between the ICS and the IAS. Now, so much about that. Now, coming back to this IAS once again, it evolved over a period of time. What was merely a subjugation of the subjects by the British ICS, it became the protection and development of the Indian citizens by the IAS. Therefore, the entire color changed. The ICS had to change, and as and when they retired, the IAS took full control of the whole thing. Now, if I say IAS, It does not mean that I'm talking only about the IAS, but also it covers the IPS, which is an all-India service, and the Indian Forest Service, which is also all-India service. All the rest are Indian civil services, other civil services. Like foreign service, it's a very important service. It's a civil service. Like somebody would like to know, railways also, we have the IRAS, Indian Railway Account Service, Railway Traffic Service. We have Defense Account Service. Like that, quite a large number of services are there. Indian Civil Account Services. We can tell any large number of them which are central services. Now, in the beginning, the examinations were tough. Even today, it is tough, in the sense that people, like I had to write 2 papers of the postgraduate level, 3 papers of the undergraduate level, and 2 papers, 1 general knowledge and 1 general English. If somebody fails in English, he's gone. Fails in the sense that he is not able to score that much. Like, for example, I still remember the question I had in the general English paper. A thing of beauty is joy forever. No, what do you write? For 300 marks, not 1 or 2. If somebody does not have that kind of a firm background in English or thought power, they couldn't have done anything. So why I tell this is, the moderator very, very clearly spelled out that is the toughest of all examinations. Even Ms. Mohan Narayan mentioned that. Yes, it is the toughest, claimed to be the toughest of examinations. So what is required is an overall view and in-depth knowledge of most of the things. Now, see, in till, let us say, our batch, this was the pattern. It does not mean that immediately it has changed. There was a committee which came to the academy when we were there in the academy. I think it was headed by Kothari, Mr. Kothari. So they were asking for our views on several things, but our views were mostly on cadre allotment. See, what happened was, like, take for example my batch, we were about 6 from Tamil Nadu, and only I got into Tamil Nadu. 1 went to West Bengal, the other went to Assam, 3rd went to Rajasthan, 4th went to Haryana, 5th went to I think J&K. Now this created a lot of heartburn. Not only that, somebody from Karnataka was posted, got the cadre allotment to Mizoram. Now how did they do? It was by a roster. Okay, so this, most of the people objected. Those who did not get home cadre became mentally not prepared to get into that kind of situation, to go to Assam from Tamil Nadu or Mizoram from Karnataka. But people at that time did not know, like we, all of us did not know that many of the states are far, far better run governance-wise. Now I can talk, say for example, among our panel members, I don't say that anybody is from Tamil Nadu, but they're extremely happy and they've done wonderful, much better than many of, I would say, the Tamil ilk. Don't take offense, friends. So the Kothari committee's main thing was only on that. But what they did, subsequently, they diluted this from having a preliminary examination and then the main examination. Now that too, it diluted down to no postgraduate level examination. These 2 higher papers were just withdrawn. Optionals became only 2 or 3 years subsequently, and then it also went to such an extent that many of the engineering subjects, not necessarily engineering subjects like humanities, many of them, languages were all withdrawn. Like we had during our time French, German, like foreign languages like that, but today this don't exist. We had British history, European history. Where is the need for us to write a paper in civil service examination? These things have been removed and new syllabus have been added. Now that apart, what has happened is we had the restriction of age at entry. 22 to 26 minutes, matter ended. Maximum attempts were 3. Now today, the maximum attempts I think is much beyond 3. It goes up to 6 for certain categories. For certain categories, there is no restriction. The age limit also goes up to 35 and all that. So overall, if you ask me, to a certain extent, the criteria which a civil servant aspirant can think of has been diluted to a large extent. Therefore, the so-called fear psychosis, which many still possess today, there is no necessity. If we can clear a B examination, you think it is difficult to write another examination? If you can clear IIM, there are any number of IITMs, any number of IIMs, you think it is going to be tough to clear the IAS papers, civil service papers? No, not at all, not at all. Therefore, what I am suggesting is that the civil services today can do wonders. I will come to this, that is what you can do, what a civil servant can do. For example, like while introducing the panelists, their profile has been very clearly brought out. So I'm not going to talk about them. But in the past, many of the major items like G.V. Ramakrishna, like I was talking about this M.S. Srinivasan, he retired as a petroleum secretary. Shantashila Nair, again from Tamil Nadu cadre. I'm just quoting from TN cadre. All these people did wonderful work. If the Metro Water is doing what it is because of these people. Okay, likewise, I can quote any number of people who have done wonderful work as far as service is concerned. I restrict myself to a little more references to the past, in the sense, the Tamil Nadu afforestation project, I go on talking about it. So that was taken up by the state government with the assistance of JICA, Japanese International Cooperation Authority. We were in Tokyo trying to negotiate the deal and then get it. That's called TAP, Tamil Nadu Afforestation Project. Now suddenly these people, we wanted to have a democratic approach to that, and that people will also be involved. There will be only inclusive approach and not a question of exclusive approach. Now, suddenly these people said, no, you cannot have any participation from the public and therefore you get back. It's a decision has to be taken by the cabinet. It's not to be taken by me. But sitting in Tokyo, those days, no question of cell phone or any such thing. You have to wait for trunk call, this and that. So, took a decision. We'll do it. The money which will be spent on this kind of people's participation will come from the state. There is no sanction from finance, no sanction from the cabinet, nothing of the sort. A risk was taken by this chap. Said, yes, go ahead. And it was sanctioned. We come back and then develop what is called the Empowered Committee. That Empowered Committee has the powers of the cabinet. The projects went through like, like lightning speed. JICA appreciated for the first time ever that the project taken up by the Tamil Nadu government is so wonderful. Therefore, we are prepared to go in for the second, which has never happened in the history. This has had a ramification, the impact in CMRL, with which I was also associated in the very beginning. No, Tamil Nadu can do it, therefore we definitely come forward and can do this. At that stage I'm talking about. So why I say this is civil servants can do wonders. Okay, there are some situations where civil servants have turned a blind eye to many things which are happening. They are not bothered about, let us say, the public requirements. And that, yes, there is a percentage, there will always be a percentage. There will be a black sheep all over. That don't bother. So what I would suggest is, yes, the civil service, our own civil service has its own hoary past. And therefore, every one of you who is an aspirant shall aspire and try and get into this. Because of the time limit, I will stop here. I can go on talking for about another maybe 3-4 hours on various issues, but let me give a chance to the others also, please.
Thank you, sir, for your most candid response and for explaining each aspect of civil services. You have, in fact, cleared a misconception that civil service is a colonial legacy. What was originally under British an instrument of subjugation was transformed into an instrument to protect and serve the interest of people. You also mentioned that the major two requisites for aspirants are thought power and in-depth knowledge. The forestation project, according to you, the extensive deliberation and work that went into it to make a success, you even mentioned about that. Thank you very much, sir. The next question would be to Mr. Bedi. Sir, you have been Tamil Nadu government's go-to man whenever the state was afflicted with crisis. You strained every nerve in 2004 when tsunami struck Kadalur and when cyclones Varda and Oke hit the state in 2016 and 2017. You led from the front to monitor the rescue, relief, and rehabilitation measures which earned laurels from many quarters. Our question to you would be, traditionally, the civil service exam was cracked by candidates from the humanities background. In the recent years, this field is being dominated by candidates from the engineering background. Is it a healthier trend? Do engineering background civil service officers perform better than their non-engineering counterparts? Are they better equipped to deal with India's disparate challenges? Mr. Bedi, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Annie. And this is a very good question to me, though very difficult to answer. So let me just first of all talk about the basic point about administrators who have got engineering background. So what you have asked me is that whether it is a healthy trend, and maybe you sort of want me to analyze why is it so that engineers are coming in a larger number. So maybe I will also sort of statistically say that on an average in the present civil services examinations, more than 50% of the civil services candidates of all services put together are engineers. But at the same time, of course, there are also statistics. Say, I was actually going through the internet and I saw that in 2019, amongst the first 20 candidates, 12 were engineers. So this is a trend, and a lot of civil services toppers are engineers. And the point is whether they are engineers who have also used their engineering education for coming into the examination or not. Perhaps the answers, some statistics of an analysis into that will tell. For example, there's another article which does say that of all the successful candidates who go into civil services, nearly more than 80% of them take humanities subjects, and 6% take science, about 4.5% take medicine, and only about 2.2% of the candidates. In fact, there was a sample of 2-3 years in the recent past who have taken engineering subjects. So that gives a clear answer to the fact that it is not the engineering education that has mattered in enabling those candidates to come into civil services. It's basically that environment you have had, which has, and your background, which has enabled you to come into the civil services. A broad analysis which I can make of why the candidates do come into engineering, why more number of engineering candidates, I can only analyze and say 2-3 reasons. One, the sheer numbers, in my opinion. You know, you do your 10th and there are 3 streams. One stream goes to medicine, takes medicine, tries for NEET and other science related subjects. Another takes maths and the engineering subjects. Of course, there are some candidates who also take both maths and bio, but there's a large number of the students, especially in Tamil Nadu, if we see going into these two streams. Third stream is, of course, the economic stream, and the fourth stream, which in my opinion is a smaller number, goes to the humanities stream. Engineering stream is a big number, and if you compare the number of seats available for the medical colleges versus the number of engineering colleges are much higher in number. So by sheer numbers itself, you produce much larger number of engineers every year in our country as compared to the number of doctors or veterinarians or other trades as such. That is my particular opinion. So there are more number of candidates writing civil services with engineering background because of the sheer number. That is the first statistical point of view why there are more number of engineers. Second point is that, as you know, my personal view, I do not want to, there are brilliant candidates in other streams as well. But I feel that engineers are generally the students who have performed well in the 10th exam. A lot of them, they do try for engineering stream. They do take this stream and come into engineering colleges. So those who are academically brilliant a lot of students are engineers, so they have that advantage of being academically good performing, because of which they have an advantage. The third and a very important factor in my opinion is the trend. you see your own seniors taking every year, if you are an IITian or if you are a engineering college graduate and all. Of course, I had a dream of taking civil services in my student life, but that dream sort of died off. Maybe I thought, okay, I should go to the technical stream, but then I saw my own seniors getting into civil services one by one. One person 3 years senior to me got in, 2 years senior to me got in, and 1 year senior to me getting in. I thought, why not me? So that trend is there, inspiration is there in engineering colleges, which that chain inspiration is there, which perhaps may not be there as strongly as it is there in engineering colleges as compared to others. I'll give you an example. Compare an engineering college to a medical college. Both the students are brilliant, or maybe an MBA student. They are all brilliant. So, but the point is that more number of engineers getting into civil services, whereas the more brilliant in medical may be actually going for specialization in medicine, etc. The trend may be a little more on that side. So all these factors do inspire more number of engineers to write the examination, and with their good academic brilliance, with their being higher number, they do take the examination. The last point is the subjects we take. I'm an engineer. I actually I got into Indian engineering services by writing engineering exams. I am an electronics and communications engineer. It was told in the beginning. I wrote twice. Once I wrote and result had come, I got into the first stream I wanted to get into, that is the Indian Railways. I had got a good rank in the top 40s. But I thought, okay, I was writing, I should again write. I was preparing for civil services. So I wrote again, I got within the first, I wrote up to the written exam. I had got high marks. But in civil services, the year I passed out, I wrote engineering services. Of course, I had an issue personally because I am an electronics and communication engineer, and the subject over there is electrical engineering. So sort of 33% of the exam is out of syllabus for you unless you study for that electrical machinery subject. So in civil services, the second time I wrote, I took humanities subjects, history and literature of Punjabi language, and I got 20th rank actually. So I was okay. Maybe engineering students also, if there are many engineers who are participants in this particular, the engineering students have that flair of quickly. I'm sure most of the students will be like they who will make last 1 month study for their exam or last 15 days study and quickly grasp it. So was my case. After having cleared my prelims, I went for literature in the just exactly a month's time, and I could get this. So this is the broad reason for why engineers are coming and what's the background. Now, the point I will like to also answer is it a good trend? Like, I have personally seen that being an engineer, it does help. Of course, your own background in whatever the educational background you have had, you always have a plus point when you are working as a civil servant. But I personally felt that I being an engineer, it has helped me a lot. Now, you need not be a civil engineer or having that engineering bent of mind is always useful. I will give you an example. For example, I was collector of Kadlu district when tsunami came in. So we had a lot of people who were displaced from their houses. Fishermen were living in camps, shelters, etc. A lot of NGOs were coming forward to build the houses. So then it was then that we had very supportive chief secretary, CRA. All of them were there to guide us, and I personally felt that we should government and private sector should go for a partnership by the government giving the land and NGOs going for houses, because we thought public-private partnership can be good in this regard. So NGOs we actually involved ourselves with the NGOs and we designed the houses, discussed with the community. We actually scrutinize the estimates. I may not be a civil engineer, but you do the basic engineering and you can understand the basic concepts whenever the estimates are being discussed. So as a collector, you don't feel out of the place, and you don't let the others take an upper hand. With the basic concept being clear to you, you can actually give useful interactions and give useful directions in the planning process. And actually, because of that, because we were able to coordinate, technically also oversee the entire civil works going in the district, we were able to do well. And in fact, as you know, Kadlur was considered to be a good model district, and former US President Bill Clinton, our former, the then President Abdul Kalam ji, and others, they were also, all VIPs had visited and seen and encouraged us in all process. Not only that, my further postings also, after that I was Director and Commissioner of Rural Development and Panchayat Raj. Again, I was dealing with only technical people, the two streams, technical and non-technical people. So it's the point is that being an engineer, you are not really taken for a ride by anybody. Like any person saying something, you can go to the site, do the measurement, check the issue with respect with the M-book. Not that it's a big thing, you need an engineering degree. At the same time, let me also qualify, if you are even an arts graduate, an officer can just take about 1 week's time to learn the basic concepts, see the M-books, do the basic, have the basic knowledge about how to cross-check the actual works going on over there, etc. So I used all my knowledge for ensuring that I have a good grip on the system. Now at present, I am Agriculture Production Commissioner and Principal Secretary Agriculture. Of course, very interesting. Of course, this is an advantage of civil services, that you being an engineer are also learning a lot of agriculture, horticulture. But here also, my engineering knowledge as electronics student does help me in pushing through various IT issues. Like, for example, this Ulavan app, which is an application for farmers to give them various MIS-based information. In fact, we have developed this app, and it is considered to be one of the most popular in the entire country, with more than 8 lakh farmers on board. And one message I put over here through the app reaches on the home screen of 8 lakh farmers across the state. And we have got other issues where we use our technical knowledge. So the point, in a summarized manner, without going into longer aspects of the issue, I will like to tell you that having an engineering degree does help, and it's not a disadvantage. It is an advantage. That is what I will say, as will be the advantage of any other degree also. So I feel that the engineers who are civil servants do contribute positively to the civil services. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your elucidation was indeed an eye-opener, and you have touched upon how the technical knowledge is an advantage for engineering students. But I would also like to add, what we've gathered from here is the engineering students have a different level of aspiration and motivation, and most of them are aggressive self-learners. You've also said that in spite of being, it's not just engineering students, even those students who take up humanities, it all depends on the burning desire and the fire in you that will help you crack whatever it is. Thank you very much, sir. And as we move on, name a sensitive post, and Mr. Vikram Kapoor has been at the helm. Be it as the chairman of Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board, when you initiated steps to curb pollution levels, or as the executive director with the Tea Board of India, where you revived the industry with innovative scheme like the country's first ET auction, or your innings at CMDA as a member secretary, you rolled out some outstanding master plans that envisaged a paradigm shift. As a no-nonsense officer, it was indeed challenging, since you had to grapple with development regulations and perspectives on urban planning, demolitions, and follow-up. This was when the stage was set for the emergence of Greater Chennai. Vikram sir, our question to you is on domain competence. Do the central services optimally utilize the domain competence skills of engineering qualified officers in their postings? And if not, why? How relevant is the training given to the successful candidates post-recruitment? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Annie. I think this particular question is sort of a follow-up on what my colleague Gagandeep Bedi was just a moment ago talking about. I think given the audience that we have today, I just need to set the perspective first. After about over 3 decades of experience in the civil services, I can say that civil services are basically another form of management, public management as we call. The officers who man positions in civil services essentially do public management, which means management of public organizations and resources meant to serve the public. As a corollary to that, civil servants are expected to also frame government policy, which will help guide these kind of policy, the operations in these public institutions. So it's basically, one must realize that the people, irrespective of the stream from which they come from, whether engineering, arts, sciences, commerce, ultimately, when they join the civil services, they are expected to become managers. I'm always fond of saying that as public managers, we deal with 3 M's, which is also common in the private sector to a large extent. We deal with manpower, which is man management, as they say. Second, material management. And thirdly, money management or finance. However, unlike the private sector, in government, manpower management is not just about managing your own employees or your superiors, and in the private sector, as you also manage customers, for us in government, our customers are the public whom we are expected to serve. So you manage your organization, your employees, your peers, your superiors. You again also have to manage the public who you are supposed to serve. And another third dimension of this man management is managing the political system. So this is the fundamental difference vis-a-vis the private sector. As public servants, we are expected to uphold the democracy that we are so proud of. And in a democracy, it is ultimately the voice of the people that matters. And public representatives who represent the public, these are the people whom we are expected to advise, and we are expected to manage in a government system. So manpower management is one of the key skills that a civil servant develops. None of us is born with that skill. Some of us do have a natural flair for managing people well, but you learn a lot on the job. The second M in this management is about material, which basically deals with the services that we provide to the public, whether it is social services or infrastructure or any other kind of operations that government does. There are dozens of government agencies, departments who provide various kind of services to the government, to the public. So as a civil servant, we are expected to manage those services by optimal utilization of the material. The third M that we do is financial management, money, which means you budget, you mobilize resources, and you're responsible for expenditure. And all of these need to be done in an optimal manner and within the framework of law. So essentially, a civil servant is a manager who performs all these functions in a public organization. Now, coming to your question, an engineer, when he or she is trained in college, your mind develops in a manner that you, in a way, get trained to manage all these resources, whether it's manpower, material, or money. However, as I said, even the best of engineers would require further improvement in their abilities. So that is where, when you get a job, you actually learn on the job. In my experience, and I will reiterate what Mr. Gagandeep Bedi mentioned a while ago, I'm not an engineer myself. I belong to the pure sciences background, but I have a huge respect for engineers. I feel they are one of the best minds that we have in the country, and they are the best suited to learn. So apart from the learning that you do in your institution in those 4 years, more than that, it is the learning that you do on job for the next 30, 35 years of your career, which will hold you in good stead. As I keep telling my younger colleagues, in civil services, it's a lifelong learning. You never stop learning. The beauty of this civil service is that you're not stuck to one kind of work. The reason why we joined the civil service, apart from others, is the enormous variety that we have in our job. Gagandeep Singh Bedi mentioned a moment ago, at one point of time, he was a district collector handling disasters. Another point of time, he's dealing with agriculture, despite the fact that he's an engineer. I'm a physics student. I have done different kind of jobs, as Dr. Annie was mentioning, right from urban planning to power sector to being a collector. So the enormous amount of variety in the job is what is challenging, what is the real excitement about. In a typical civil servant's career, we typically work in 20 to 25 different departments on an average. Some people do more or less, but imagine the amount of variety of jobs that you'll have. You can never be stagnant. There'll always be a new learning happening every 2 or 3 years. So you need, as an engineer, to understand that you're not expected to go there and apply your engineering knowledge. Of course, it does help, as Gagan mentioned. Maybe you are expected to read estimates, you've got to plan things, projects, implementation. But then, more than the domain knowledge, it's the training of your mind that is important, your ability to learn new things and learn on the job. Friends, I just want to also inform those who may not be familiar with the way the whole process functions. After you get selected in the civil services, there are a host of civil services. Some are called All India services, as Mr. Sripati mentioned, the IAS, the IPS, and the Forest Service. But bulk of the services, out of the 1100 odd posts that Dr. Annie mentioned, only maybe about 200 to 250 posts are only the IAS, IPS. Of course, Forest Service is a separate examination, but the Common Civil Service examination, hardly about 200 odd posts would be for the IAS, IPS, which are called All India services. The rest are all central services, which means you become employees of the central government, and you, of course, are given a particular service, whether it's the revenue service or customs or audit service. So there are various central services. But after you are selected, you are allotted to cadres. For IAS and IPS, which are All India services, you are actually allotted a state, which becomes your karma bhumi, a place where you actually perform for the next 30, 35 years of your service. And in a way, you become a state employee. So after your selection, the moment you go to the academy, the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy of Administration, an IAS officer is allotted a cadre. And that cadre for you is where you need to settle down. You may be an All India service officer, but you are, for all practical purposes, a state officer. You undergo 2 years of intensive training, 1 year in the academy and 1 year in the state where you are allotted. And after 2 years, when you are confirmed, you actually go back to the state and then you start your career officially. A lot of us, as Gagandeep was mentioning, end up in states other than our own. I also, like Gagan, belong to Punjab, but was allotted Tamil Nadu, like him, and we have to learn the language of the state you're allotted to. You have to learn its culture, its ethos, and become assimilated with the state. Most of the All India service officers have to serve in states other than their own. So this is a reality. All of you must realize that this itself is a huge change, and therefore you need to be prepared for this change. It may affect your personal relationships, your family ties. It may affect the way you think, you live. So All India services is not just about learning new jobs every other day, but it's also about learning a new culture and learning to settle down in a new place. And finally, to handle this kind of change, this continuous change that you keep undergoing, you need to have a passion. Without passion, you will not crack the exam. And more importantly, without this passion to serve, you will not be a successful officer. So if you don't have this passion, I think it's a waste of time to have a go at these civil services. You must have the passion and the willingness to come out of your comfort zone. And therefore, it's very important that before you embark on this civil services challenge, you must be convinced, ask yourself this question, that am I willing to come out of my comfort zone and work in a different environment, learn a new language, new customs, and be prepared for continuous change lifelong, be prepared to learn lifelong. So this would be my response. I still feel it's a great thing. A lot of people say that engineers coming into civil services means that, you know, it's a waste of country's resources. The country spends so much on an engineer, and then the engineer ends up, you know, becoming a non-engineer, doing subjects, or, you know, which are nothing to do with his domain. I feel it's a wrong analogy. With nearly some 4 lakh engineers, 5 lakh engineers being churned out every year, if out of them even 100 engineers enter the All India services in a year, it's a very small number, but they are the cream of the country. And the civil services today need, the people of this country need the cream of this country. And I'm extremely happy that people who are engineers, who are doctors, voluntarily give up their careers and come and serve the public. I think this is the best thing that can happen. And this is the reason why we are so proud of the civil services. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that thought-provoking response. The main takeaways would be you have actually covered all the facets of management, all the man, material, financial management, which is required, along with the political management, that is along with understanding the political system and the public system too. You also mentioned that how important it is to learn on the job in addition to the academic. So what you learn in your college is not what's most important. Learning, it's going to be a continuous learning. And you touched upon the reality of understanding and appreciating other cultures for an aspirant, especially when you're from other states. Aspirants have to be driven by a capacity for lifelong learning. Regardless of being from an engineering or non-engineering background, what's most important is that the students have to be high on passion and perseverance. Thank you very much, Vikram, sir. Our next question would be to Mr. Bansal. In 2013, you took over the charge of Chennai Metro as managing director. You wondered why platforms of 240 meters needed to be constructed when the train required only 140 to 145 meters to park at the station. Your team came up with a yes, we can answer to this 145-meter challenge, arguably for the first time in the world. Sir, we would like to know your views on the fact that many who have cracked the civil services exams in the recent past are from some top engineering institutions that make common people think that civil service exam is meant for the elite and can be cracked only by those who are brilliant. This may make the successful candidates and the bureaucrats think that they are intellectually superior to others. This may also affect the way they relate with people. Is it not a serious issue? How would you like to comment on this? Bansal sir, over to you.
He is muted.
Good evening, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, you are.
It's a Miss Annie has asked me a very difficult question, but before going to the difficult question, I will start where the Kapoor sir ended. And see, the sir told very two important points. You should decide whether you want to be there or not. Or if you really want to serve, then only you should come. Otherwise, there is no need to come. And second thing, that your difficult question. See, let me tell you, if you see in our service, because we see from inside, it's not a brilliant people, all kind of people are there in our service. And very human angle people, very task-oriented people, All kind of people are there. So just thinking that only the brilliant people can come in this service, I will not agree to that. But let me go back to my college days. And, it's okay.
Okay.
So I'm being from rural background and got selected in IT BHU. And as soon as I got selected, I forgot the study. I stopped studying. And I went into the mode that just studying one night before the exam and just passing it with some grade of 6 or 7 or 7.5, whatever comes. So, and I involved myself all together 4 years in my extracurricular activities. And by that time I came to my final year, I was not there what to do actually, whether I should go for civil services or not. That was not in my mind at all. So as through my campus interview selection, I went to the private company called VIP Industries, and I was working for around 2 years there. And during that period, I really could decide what should I actually go for that. It is not that somebody in my family is telling or some my friends are telling or some senior telling I should go for civil services. During, so basically the students, those are engineering students there, for them I really would like to tell, you should decide first what you want to be. If you are not decided what you want to be, whether you want to go to this service, then you will not put the full effort for this thing and you may not succeed also. Though everybody might be telling that more than 50% are engineers and all those things. But even 50% engineers are very, very minuscule in terms of the number of availability of engineers. So you see, during our time, the trend was that most of the people used to go for GRE and they used to go to the US. My 50% class went to the GRE and to US. And then around next category of people used to appear for CAT. They will go to IIMs and all those things. And then third category will be go to the civil services. And fourth category will come to the few people will become, will join as engineers. And later on also they will switch over to the different stream. So when I was working in the industry, in a private company, I really came to know what is the role of engineer and the people, those are doing the IIMs, once they come to the industry and to corporate sector, what role they play. And then I started thinking about myself, what I need and what I should to do. Then it took me, I decided it took me 1.5 years to decide that I should go for civil services. And then after that, I started preparing for civil services. I quit the job. And then again, I joined for post-graduation in IIT Delhi. And I started preparation for that. And let me tell you, I was in studies, I was very, very average student. So the engineering students, those things, you have not done good in studies and you have not studied properly, you should not go for civil services. That should not be a bar. Actually, if you see my total CGPA was 7.16 only. And when I quit the job and I came to Delhi for preparing of civil services, my many well-wisher, they seriously asked me, Bansal, do you think you will be really able to study for civil services, where you have to put in every day 14 to 16 hours of sitting and just studying and studying, nothing more than that? But I had already decided to go for that. And I started studying and got selected. So again, I would like to say, don't think that what is your CGPA or which college you are studying or from which stream you are there. Most important thing that you should decide first whether you want to come here or not, or where you want to be. And then you try for that. Then you will give your 100% effort and you will get success. I will come to like a sir was also telling earlier, Vikram Kapoor sir, Bedi sir, and Sripati sir. Being engineer, I don't know whether it is useful for service or not, because I have seen from my point of view, not from other point of view may be different. I have seen engineers are doing really good and doing really equally bad also. I have seen humanity background people, they are also doing very good also and very bad also. So there is a spectrum of people are there. We cannot say that engineering background people are better But looking into the today's world and looking today's kind of governance, where more and more development is required and more infrastructure projects are required, being engineer, it can be little better than other people. And yes, as you mentioned that as a managing director of Chennai Metro Rail, if yes, I was engineer, so that's why we could reduce the length of station from 240 meter to 150 meter only. If I would not have been engineer, it would have been difficult for me. But if I would not have been engineer, I would have still tried for that. The question started with a very simple question. The two type of metro stations are there: elevated and then underground stations. And one elevated station, the length of platform is only 140 meter, and the length of train is also 140 meter. But once you go to underground station, the length of station is 240 meter, though the trains remain the same of the 140 meter. So it was a general common sense that why we are making underground station for more than 140 meter. When I asked this question to my all international consultant and my all senior officers in Chennai Metro Rail, they really look at me from different angle, and then they smiled and they told, "Sir, it is like that, sir." So that was the first impression, but it was going in my mind as soon as I joined there. And within 6 months time, I could visit all the places and I could work out that how it is possible. And then I discussed again with my team. And when I discussed again with my team, then the team told, "Yes, sir, we can really think of it and can work on it." And another 2.5 years time, we could bring the design also. And we are actually implementing now 140 to 150 meter length of underground stations. And just let me tell you, in terms of cost and time, it is very useful. If you go for one underground station, the cost of one underground station comes 300 crore rupees. And one underground station, if you are able to reduce from 240 meter to 140 meter, so you are able to bring the cost from 300 crore to 200 crore. In addition to the cost, if you see the time consuming in urban environment, when we are building the station below the Anna Salai and Punamalai High Road and outer or on the ring road, 100 feet Jawaharlal Nehru Salai. So it really saves a lot of time to us. And we are able to see it. And the underground station, which used to take us at least 4 years time for construction, we are able to do construction in 2 to 2.5 years of time now. I will go to the question which was put up to me by Miss Annie. Though I started a little bit earlier, actually the service, as Kapoor sir was mentioning, it is a public management. No brilliance is required here. Only your what you think and what is your attitude and the way you want to really serve the people, that only makes the difference. If you are brilliant, that only doesn't serve the purpose. If you are brilliant, you may be able to do the work in better way and faster way. But we have seen, I would again like to say, we have seen in our own service, the brilliant people are there, which really brilliant, you cannot match them. But they have become the utter failure in the service. And we have seen the very humble people and not average people. And with their sheer hard work and dedication, they are able to deliver so much. And they have become like a trendsetter. And people in the service and outside service, they would like to follow them. And so this is the only thing I would like to say. And I'm thankful to Pals to giving me the opportunity to put forth my view in front of the youngsters, those still want to choose their path and career. And thanks to all panelists. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bansal. You reiterated Mr. Kapoor's point on how a person with passion to work should enter the civil service. The decision to join civil services should come from within and not from external factors. Brilliance is not the yardstick for cracking civil services. Strong determination to work towards your goal to crack civil services, this drive will help you excel. Considering the development required for the country, you also mentioned that engineers coming to civil services is encouraging. The ability to think, attitude, and willingness to serve people matters, and that's called brilliance. Always be service-oriented, and remember, if you're an aggressive self-learner and if you have a goal and work hard, then definitely you'll be successful. Never forget that you're a master of your destiny, the captain of your ship. Thank you very much, sir, for those envisioned views. As we move on, communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking, known as 4 Cs, are important 21st century skills. The civil services interview carries 15% of the total score in the IAS mains. Sripati sir, in your experience, do the interviewers test whether the candidates possess these skills? Should more focus be given to special skills, especially the logical analysis and decision-making in educational institutions? We would like to hear your views on this, sir.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Audible?
You are.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, wonderful. See, civil services needs what is called, to the maximum extent, common sense. Okay. Now, common sense can be acquired to a certain extent, but most of the times it is inborn. Inborn in the sense it is not, doesn't mean that it comes from hereditary aspects. Now, the basic problem with us Indians is that the lack of presentation, skills of presentation, skills of communication. Like, for example, this is particularly a problem with engineers, or I would say the professional background, people with professional background, whether it's an MBBS or engineer or CA for that matter. The communication skills are not great. Unless they develop it, they cannot do great. They cannot explain themselves. They cannot be articulate. See, the civil service involves a detailed negotiation. Unless you are able to articulate thought process I just mentioned, unless you have the thought process, and then how you may think quite a lot of things, 100 things in your mind, but how do you put forth? So that capability has to be developed, and that is precisely what the academy, for example, in many times it does. But this should develop from the colleges themselves. So basically, I'm not finding fault with the engineers, but the communication skills are just not there when they pass out of engineering colleges, most of them. Of course, IIT is a different cup of tea, IIM is a different cup of tea, but I'm talking about, in general, the engineering, people with the engineering background in various engineering colleges. Say, for example, the other day, pals, they called me for a quiz program. They had come from different colleges. Now, not everybody had that kind of a communication skill, even for a quiz program. Quiz program is just one word even, that would be sufficient, but many people were fumbling for words. So this is precisely why the interview is very important. Now, there is also a little bit of history. What happened during the imperial civil service? The Brits themselves, people would have written something extraordinarily, but may not be wanted by the higher levels. Therefore, they would increase they had increased the total number of marks available for interviews to a certain extent that the most brilliant person can be failed. Gradually, it just got whittled down, and then interview got some percentage. If you have cleared the preliminaries and then the final examinations, then the interview is very much there. Now, what they do in interview is not to test your knowledge of your basic education, whether it is engineering or medicine or pure sciences, humanities, this, that, that. No, that's not, because you already cleared those papers and then come to the interview. It's basically what you think, how would you react to a situation. See, today's administration is no longer high tech. It is much beyond that. Disaster management, for example, Mr. Bedi was mentioning about it. Tsunami management. What kind of an engineering education or a science education or even arts education would go into your head? No, nothing. Your resourcefulness, your creativity, thinking at that time, spur of the moment. Okay, so the interview requirement is very much there for a simple reason. The creativity. You think creatively. How can I just get these people out? I will give you one simple example. I think it was 2009 or some year. Massive floods in the Tanjavur belt, complete Tanjavur, Tirchi, Nagapattinam, this and that. I went to Tanjavur side, and I was right on the banks of the Kolidam river. It was in spate, and we could feel the vibration. You know, it was vibrating like that. And in a moment's time, he said, evacuate this village immediately. Believe me, we all ran, all of us, including Koi, Gunji, Vagara. And within 15 minutes, the village is flooded. No education will teach you, but you have to be creative. You have to be thinking. What will happen? So this is what is required. Background is one, yes, very important. So the creativity is very much required. The thinking is required, and common sense. So the common sense is very much required, and therefore you have to be an expert in being a resourceful person. Here, I will give you a simple one question. It's a bit laughable. One of my juniors, a lady of course, goes to the interview, pretty looking. So just to tease her, the question asked was, hey, why do you think these days a lot of people are taking sannyasam and going to Rishikesh? Now, how do you answer this? The lady immediately said, sir, I cannot be held responsible for that. As simple as that. So this kind of resourcefulness, ready with humor, this and that. Therefore, this is very essential, and the colleges will have to develop the art of public speaking, the art of thinking on the spur of the moment. Think something and then do it. You are facing a major law and order situation. What will you do? Are you going to go under cover and then keep quiet? No, not at all. If you have to throw a stone, you also throw a stone. You know, I'm just putting it in a lighter vein. So thinking is what is required. Therefore, interview is very much required. Not that 15% is more or less. Maybe I would say it is even more what is required, for a simple reason. Bookish knowledge. See, going by today's syllabus, I just happened to run through some of the syllabus. Those who have taken Tamil, for example, I can quote. So in one of those panels, I go to one or two panels here and there. So he said the Tamil was his paper. So I asked him which one, Silappadigaram. Okay, Silappadigaram to a little bit. I started asking about a particular I-shaped sir, that is left out, sir. Oh, choice. It's not part of my part of the syllabus. No questions were asked. If this is the case, so anybody can just cram up, mug up, and then come to the interview level. But is he or she going to run the administration, district administration? It requires a lot of thinking. It is not a, let us say, run-of-the-mill type of administration. Mr. Vikram Singh Bedi, Kapoor, and even Bansal mentioning about it. Everything requires a detailed analysis. Whatever is put forth before you, you need to analyze. And what do you need? Is that thinking process. So that is precisely what I'm telling you. So interview should be a little more to be taken up very seriously. Then yes, you succeed. Once you succeed in papers, it doesn't mean that you can falter in the interviews. Does it answer the point, moderator?
Yes, sir. Yes. So thank you, sir, for explaining each facet of the skills in entirety. And we are sure it has set us all thinking what best each educational institution can provide for the aspirants. According to you, in addition to common sense, the presentation skills and negotiation skills are very important. The presence of mind and the ability to communicate effectively are very inevitable. Knowledge is not tested during interviews, only the ability to think proactively, creatively, and expressing ideas clearly are assessed. Therefore, colleges should train their students on the art of public speaking thinking, and responding to challenging situations. It's very important to be articulate with a sense of humor, resourceful when dealing with crisis, and the ability to think on one's feet. Thank you, sir. Next, we are going to have a new set of views with our questions to the educationalists. Our next question would be to Dr. Pandey. As the number of engineering graduates cracking civil service exams is increasing every year, should higher education institutions voluntarily prepare students for the civil service exam? If yes, what are the proactive measures to be taken? How can an engineering curriculum be aptly modified and the time well managed to face the competitive exam challenges? Dr. Pandey, over to you.
Thanks, Annie. I think a very interesting and a very relevant question. So I would like to share my experiences when we started with our Dr. MGR IS Academy. I'm the Joint Registrar, Humanities and Sciences. Just giving an intro, my intro is very average and ordinary in front of this elite panel. I'm neither an engineer, nor an officer, nor a bureaucrat. But my address is more to the student community, because one thing that I understand is the student mindset and what we need to do as educationists to change that mindset. As somebody earlier said, that elite institutions are a different ballgame altogether. And we are talking about institutions where there are very bright minds, but they are not aspirational. I think that's extremely important, the power of dreams. And when you say about what should we change in education institutions to make our students more ready for cracking this exam, I think it starts from the day they walk into the campus. I encounter a lot of such students who say that, ma'am, oh my God, IS, how can I become an IS officer? I'm like somebody before me also told, Pankaj also told about it, that average students can crack the exam provided the attitude is right. So we need to create that attitude shaping from the day that they walk into the campus, making them aspirational. I keep quoting one famous painter who was asked, how do you paint so beautifully? And he said, I dream my paintings. I dream my paintings and I paint my dreams. So I tell them the first step to achieving anything in life is starting with a dream. When I say dream, it means goal setting. That is important on the first day that they walk into the campus. I'm talking more about attitude shaping right now. Then we'll come into the logistics that are needed to train them. The second thing, very important, somebody talked about it earlier, is the passion for, the passion to be in the services. Until and unless it doesn't come from within, this is a very tough exam. This is a very tough and an extremely competitive exam, mother of all exams. It requires a lot of grit, a lot of resilience, a lot of perseverance, besides a lot of ability to assimilate a lot of knowledge. So the passion, if you don't have that passion for entering into the services, believe me, no amount of coaching, no amount of goading, and no amount of dream is going to help you succeed. So identify those who are really interested, and probably training the right kind of people. No, you create a large set of audience and try to just bring all and sundry into this forum. This is not a forum for them. So again, I read somewhere a story about a high jumper who was asked, how do you climb a bar so high? He broke all record in high jump. And he said, I throw my heart over the bar and my body follows. I throw my heart over the bar and my body follows. So it's more about the inner energy, the passion that comes. With all the passion and with all the dreams, nothing succeeds like hard work. So it's extremely important that by just thinking positively, your success is not guaranteed. Positive thinking, hard work is positive thinking is extremely important, but along with that, something more important is hard work, assisting with that effort. And this I would tell to the student community, which I say that colleges, institutions should create that environment where students learn these 4 skills, and these are not millennium skills I'm talking about. I would talk about the skill to assimilate, analyze, synthesize, and innovate. When I say assimilate, see, there is a lot of data and knowledge available at the click of the mouse nowadays. But are you collecting the right material? Are you collecting the right data? That is extremely important. So this is also an art. How do you gather data? How do you gather data relevant to your topic, relevant to your subject? So assimilate. Then you analyze. So any theory, any point of view has different opinions. Whether it is engineering or management or humanities or science, there are thinkers with varying ways of thinking and varying mindsets. So you need to be able to analyze what is it I need for this particular topic. How do I gather that data? How do I fit different pieces of information in the order of their importance? How do I analyze the different points of view, the diversity that is there among the thinkers? How do I analyze that? How do I synthesize that then? How do I combine it in a way that it becomes relevant? And then finally, how do I innovate? So these are not very high-tech millennial skills. These are not skills that are relevant only to one discipline. I think this is something that we need to teach from day one. And how do we teach that? We teach that by motivating our faculty members, by recruiting the right kind of faculty, by giving the right kind of training to our faculty. So we organize a lot of FDPs, faculty development programs and all. If we transfer that knowledge to our faculty, they will be able to transfer it to the students. So the right kind of recruitment and training and orientation to faculty is extremely important. Another thing I would tell, somebody talked about moving out of your comfort zone, because that you do all the time when you are in your civil services. I am not a civil servant, but my husband is an IFS officer. So I've traveled with him 2 years, 3 years, stayed in one place, then gone to some other place. So that is after you get selected, after you join the services. But before that, when you are in your 4 years in college or 3 years in your college, you need to utilize that time optimally by learning as much as possible. And believe me, at the point where you are probably enrolling for a debating competition or for a drama or for a quiz, at that point, you will probably not realize the value that you are getting by doing all these extracurricular activities. Only academic learning, only inside class learning is not enough for your holistic development of your personality. I remember I read about Steve Jobs, a story about Steve Jobs, and when he dropped out of Reeds College, he enrolled for a course in calligraphy, the science of handwriting. And at that point of time, he did not know how that knowledge of calligraphy is going to help him in the future. And when he created Apple, the typeface and the fonts that was so unique to Apple were to some extent also because of the knowledge of calligraphy that he got in Reeds College. So Steve Jobs made a very beautiful statement. He says, you cannot connect the dots moving forward. You can only connect them going backwards. You cannot connect the dots moving forward. You can only connect them moving backwards, which means that what learning you are getting today in the campus, that you are not going to realize the value today. So we need to keep motivating the students to participate in all sorts of activities. Today you will say, why do I need to do that? But because you are not able to connect the dots moving forward, but you will be able to connect it going backwards when you are writing your competitive exam, when you are appearing for an interview, that overall perspective that you get, or even when you are in service, that's going to help you tremendously. So that is another thing that I would like to say. So number one, you should have the interest in it starts with having a goal and being aspirational. Number two, the passion for the services, for studying and all that. Number three is the hard work that is required. So I think most of us know about Muhammad Ali and how he used to go into the boxing ring and shout to the crowd, "I'm the greatest, I'm the champion." But while he was doing all that, he was also going home and practicing. So I think hard work, there is no substitute for hard work. You don't reach anywhere by taking shortcuts. At least you don't reach anywhere good by taking shortcuts. And with respect to civil services, since I've taken this exam and in my first attempt, I reached the interview, second attempt, again cleared the prelims, but got married and probably lost sight of my goal. I was more interested in teaching by that time, finishing my PhD. So I'm telling from that experience, I'm not in I cannot give any other job related experience because I'm not in that role. So I would say when you're preparing for this exam or any competitive exam, again, I would like to visualize, there was a champion wrestler who I heard this story somewhere while listening to one famous orator, a motivator. So while a champion wrestler was asked that, what is the secret of your success? And he says that when I practice at home, I visualize my opponent practicing and I keep practicing. I get tired and again, I think about what is my opponent doing? What is my competitor doing? And I again visualize him practicing. I practice more. I reach a stage where I'm so tired and I feel like sitting on the sofa and I visualize what is my opponent doing. And I feel he's also tired and probably he's sitting in the sofa, taking a rest or under the shower, taking a bath. And what do? I do not go to the sofa or go to hit the shower. I practice more. So it is a competition, for God's sake. somebody gets better than you, you are out of the race. So continuous, consistent effort is extremely, extremely important. So these are some of the things that I would say are required as an attitude shaping that we need to do from day one when student walks into the campus. Number two, to answer your question, should universities set up some sort of, number one, I told you the motivation and the faculty training that is required. But tying up with academies that have expertise in teaching students for cracking these exams, I think that's a good thing. And our university, like we have set up a Dr. MGR IS Academy, because the students sometimes find it difficult to go outside the campus and get trained in these academies. The advantage is you get a focused program where the teachers are trained specially to teach you for civil services. A normal professor cannot guide you for that. So that type of focused training, in-house training within the campus would definitely help the students. And universities like ours, we have taken the step in the right direction. I think I've tried to answer your question. Thanks a lot, Annie.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Malini. So I'm going to have the next question, Dr. Charlie Jerome, and then probably I will summarize our educationalist viewpoints and present after he gives his views too. Why are the engineering graduates able to crack the UPSC exams compared to non-engineering graduates? What is the ecosystem and engineering education needs to develop to inspire, nurture, and motivate potential civil aspirants? Dr. Charlie, let me hear from you, and then I will summarize Dr. Malini's, yours, and my viewpoints on this question. Over to you.
Thank you, Manny. And it is really a prestigious moment, and I'm really honored to be alongside with such eminent dignitaries and academicians. So in this forum, let me give an overall view and address the objective of this gathering. So the IIT PALS, in spite of organizing such a program, they have come out with a basic 5 or 6 objectives in order to share their viewpoints to the viewers. So the first one would be the career prospects in Indian civil service scenario. So first, one has to understand what civil service scenario is. So I'm not from an engineering background. I'm from a humanitarian background. And in spite of that, what I understand from the civil service is that it is the welfare of people, which is the basic objective of any civil service. And equality for all is another vital objective. And by differentiating and meeting the needs of the haves and have-nots, that should be the prioritization given by any civil service candidate. So once the schemes announced by the government is properly implemented, the problems like poverty, unemployment, and such can be easily eradicated. So this is what the basic idea of any civil service aspirant would be. So in perspective to career growth, it is a prestigious power for any individual, and a belief that the growth of a common man would substantially increase the growth of the society from where he or she has hailed from. So for which a civil service exam would be the appropriate choice for such candidate with a societal consciousness. So next, for instance, I would say, like it is said that like 97% of the NEET syllabus is a match from the Tamil Nadu syllabus, which was a major revamp done by a common man from Tamil Nadu, Mr. Uday Chandran IAS, hailing from Namakkal. So to conclude, so a civil service aspirant can make a major turnout on his or her field of work with dedication. Okay. So the next thing is encouraging engineering students to look at civil service as a serious career option. So before addressing directly to this question, I would like to give some statistical insight from where I have browsed from the internet and got things. So as an engineer acing the IAS exam has been the very trend for a long time. So as a lot of our panelists said, a lot of engineers have cracked the IAS service recent years. So in fact, one person, Mr. Ira Singhal, the IAS topper of the year 2019, is a computer engineering graduate. In fact, of the 20 UPSC toppers in the year 2017, 19 were of engineering background. So the IAS ranked second, Raj Purohit, was from IIT Delhi, while the 2014 IAS topper Gaurav Agarwal was an engineering as well. So apart from that, famous people like Arvind Kejriwal, Dr. Subbarao, Manohar Parrikar, Ashok Kemla, Kiran Bedi, etc., all come from engineering background. So most engineering graduates make effective use of their sound understanding of the mathematical, logical, reasoning and analytical skills, and that helps them succeed in UPSC exams. And that is what is the bridge between a lot of engineering graduates who are cracking the civil service exams. And besides that, a lot of people from IITians especially opt for science and maths as their optional papers, which also gives them an unfair advantage, because it is easy for them to score 400 in maths, which may seem near impossible for a non-engineering graduate who has not been into maths after his higher studies. So in the last decade, top slot of have been occupied only by engineers, and besides, more than 50% of the candidates recommended for various important posts are from engineering academic background every year. So although engineers are making a way into the top league, 80% of optional subjects picked by them recommended candidates are from humanitarian stream. And that is because they would want to excel in what they couldn't. And they take subjects which they can really do well. They have an inner love for something else also. And so they have an optional subject from humanities background as well. So candidates follow an anti-competition technique where they opt subject from a different academic background to eliminate competition in their own field. So in the year 2014, out of 7,55,103 candidates who had applied for civil services, only 3,18,184 appeared, and 57.9% of the candidates dropped out. It is because they have the fear of preparation. See, I'm really wondering why people take IAS exam as the toughest exam. Yes, it is the toughest exam, but it depends on how you look at it. You have to believe it, because we human beings have the ultimate complex thing, that is a brain, which can never be studied, which can never be expected to analyze beyond our potentiality. So our human brain has the capacity to do anything. So in this scenario, why not a civil service exam? So that is my viewpoint. So the next is the information on the kind of role of engineers who can contribute to the civil service. On the first hand, because of serious unemployment chances maybe in the core career choices, engineering graduates migrated their attention towards civil service recently, the back years. But any country, any specific department, as most of our panelists said, requires people who are professionalists and specialists. So engineers are considered as specialists, and students of arts background are generalists. So I'm not against arts people, but I'm saying in the perspective of an engineering student. So this is the so-called specialist, when studying theoretical and practical application, makes it a bit convenient for the engineering students to crack the exam by understanding the nature of the very syllabus. So the country needs domain-specific analysts or specialists or professionals who can understand the need of the people and to serve them exponentially. For instance, you can take Bila Rajesh, the madam is the health secretary, or was the health secretary of Tamil Nadu, who was an MBBS graduate who can really understand the deeper aspects of the societal needs under the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak. So any department has its specialization, as the specialists or wanted engineers are apt and can shine as well. So at present, there is a worldwide technological revolution where any profession has its technological impact. So engineering students are the developers of all the technical growth. So engineering is not a course, rather than it is a discipline. So engineering is infused in anything we see and dwell. Without engineering, the world would not run. So the principles of engineering is the basis of the survival of the world and the worldly developments. So any field or area requires the professionals and specialists, and engineers are the appropriate ones. And preparation for the civil service is like, you know, all would have watched the movie Bahubali. The very character would face lot of trouble climbing up the waterfalls after repeated tries, and at last, after a very struggle, he would reach at the top of the waterfalls, and he stands there, and all would have thought, yes, he has reached something, attained something. But that's not it. There lies a kingdom in front of him. He has to do a lot before it. So entering into civil service is only the beginning step, and you have to do a lot of it, and you have to have the societal consciousness, and only with that you can do and achieve a lot. And as Pankaj sir was saying, the construction of metro, it was easy to analyze the need for space and its requirements. Also, he said that he would have tried otherwise, even if he is not from an engineering background. Yes, he is absolutely true. But if he would have tried, but he had better options only because he was a civil engineering, he was an engineering graduate. And as Sripati sir said, it's all about decision making. So here it is not about the arts and engineering. You have to have an analytical mindset. So if you have the perfect decision making skills in spite of any immediate requirement, and that decision making skill would take you to greater heights. And as sir was saying, art of public speaking and communication and responding rather than reacting is one of the major quality which the engineers have. So whenever there is a societal need or a problem given to any engineer, so their analytical and their insight would definitely respond rather than just reacting. So the attitude, aspirational goal setting, everything matters when it comes to the civil service exam. So I think I have answered.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Charlie. I would quickly like to summarize our educationist viewpoints and present it as: why are the engineering graduates, for that matter of engineering or non-engineering graduates, able to crack the UPSC civil services exam? Bright and goal-oriented students opt for engineering. The brightest of them join top engineering colleges and are passionate about their goals. They have prepared themselves for many competitive examinations that have instilled confidence in them to face challenges. These students are high on passion and perseverance. These students have a different level of aspiration and motivation, and most of them are aggressive learners. The engineering curriculum also helps them to develop certain critical skills like interpersonal skills, communication skills, logical reasoning, and analytical ability. They are strong in decision-making and problem solving. In addition, they are supposed to be avid readers who go beyond the syllabus. They show their interest in current affairs and global development. They develop their knowledge through various platforms, and some colleges, especially engineering colleges, have civil services aspirants club, and they have an understanding or a tie-up with some of these training institutes. Students of the clubs discuss current affairs, take part in group discussions, make oral presentations, and attend mock interviews. This is how they prepare themselves for the grind. In addition, the education institutions should also concentrate on faculty training, and their empowerment is also very important. I would like to thank all our panelists for patiently answering and throwing light on the questions that I had posed. I would like to move on to the question and answer session. We would like to present the question and answer session for the panelists by the audience. As we would like to share the screen. Ms. Sujata from the PALS PMO's office would share the pre-captured questions for us. I would request our panelists to choose their preferred questions and share their views briefly on the same. And while the views are being shared, if the esteemed panelists can give a short and crisp message to our students in general, and specifically to the students aspiring for civil services as a career, it would be really helpful and a great takeaway for the students.
Now, I am audible. Yeah. See, what opportunities are available in civil services? Well, yes, Himalayan opportunities. Does it answer all your questions? the sense, let me give it to you in a nutshell. Like, for example, today I saw in the papers about the UN meeting in which one of our IFS officers literally, this quote unquote, tore to shreds Pakistani stand on Kashmir. Okay, this is a great opportunity. You represent India, that is on the foreign service. Now come down to the state or rural area. Even our Mr. Bedi, for example. Now what he did in rural area is something phenomenal. I would talk about Kapoor. The 2015, he may still remember, 3:45 a.m. I called him up. He was there online. So these are all things which could be done. And Bansal, I don't have to say anything more. You already said about 240 to 150. See, the opportunities are galore across the board, depending upon the service. If it is income tax service, if it is Indian audit and account service, or civil account service, or defense accounts, railway traffic, for example, many of the IRTS officers are responsible for electrification, the stations which are being run up, and the number of passengers and the cargo which is being transported on a daily basis is unparalleled. Nowhere in the world it is happening. So opportunities are galore. And the civil services also offer in-service training and studies within India and abroad. Therefore, it is there. You look for something, it is there. Okay, yep. Anybody else? Yeah, Vikram Kapoor. Yeah.
I was watching the questions which were circulated earlier, and now I'm also seeing the questions being asked by the various students. I just want to summarize for those of you who are not very familiar with the current examination scheme of the civil services exam. I suggest if some of you can take a paper and a pen and note it down. See, it's a 3-stage examination. You first go through a preliminary examination, which is an objective type, where you just need to answer a multiple choice answer question. The second is the mains stage, which is more subjective, which means essay type answers to the questions. And third is the interview or the personality test, as we call it. Now, in the preliminary examination, the new pattern, which was not there when we used to appear, it has basically 2 papers to attempt. These 2 papers are of 2 hours duration each, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. One paper is called General Studies, which happens in the morning, and the other paper is called the Civil Services Aptitude Test, CSAT. These 2 papers are in English, and I believe it is in Hindi and is not yet available in other languages, but this needs to be checked. But these 2 are basically for 200 marks each. In the General Studies paper, there are 100 questions. In the CSAT, there are 80 questions. And there is a negative marking scheme. So for every wrong answer, 1/3 of the mark allotted to the paper, to the question, is deducted. And if you don't answer, you get 0. But if you get the right response, you get the full mark. So for GS, obviously 2 marks to a question. And for the CSAT, 2.5 marks for each correct response. Now, this preliminary examination is basically only a screening test, which means if you score the cutoff, then you move to the main stage. But these marks are not added to your final score. So it's only a qualifying examination. What needs to be noted is the CSAT, the aptitude test, actually tests your comprehension skills, your communication skills, your logical ability, your decision-making skills, and your mental ability. Now, these things obviously cannot be really taught through books or through any particular course. Now, these are normally learned, by experience. But the good news is that there are coaching centers, there are books, which help you crack these kind of questions. So a lot of practice needs to be done for the CSAT. The general studies paper, of course, is mostly about general knowledge on various aspects which you study all through your schooling years. So you may have to go back to your school textbooks, and the best I found is the NCERT textbooks, which give you a whole range of subjects, right from history to geography to civics to science, etc. Now, once you clear the preliminary exam, you go on to the mains examination, where now there are actually 2 + 7 papers that you need to attend. These 2 are basically qualifying papers. These are language papers. So you need to appear in one in English and one in any Indian language. So it could be Tamil along with English. So you need to clear these 2 papers. The qualifying marks is 25%. It's 300-mark paper each. So 25% means about 75 marks is all that you require to qualify. Now again, these marks are not added to your final score, so it doesn't count for merit. But if you don't pass either of these 2 subjects with 25% marks, you will be disqualified and your other 7 papers will not count. Now, what are these other 7 papers? These 7 papers are broadly in 3 categories. One paper is the essay. And the good news is you can write these 7 papers in any Indian language or in English. So the essay paper can be written in Tamil, it can be in English or any language of your choice. Of course, it has elements like not just essay, but précis and other comprehension skills, but it's basically a paper that you need to attempt. The next category of papers is the general studies. So here you have 4 papers of general studies, of which 3 are typically GK, as you saw in the preliminary exam, again covering things like history, civics, geography, science, biology, whatever. The 4th paper in this general studies group is what is called a paper on ethics, integrity, and aptitude. So here, you are given situations where you have to give your responses to see what are your responses. So 1 essay, 4 GS papers, and then you have 2 optional, we call it the subject, 2 papers in the optional subject. So your subject could be, say, your engineering paper, or it could be history, or it could be Tamil literature or anything. Now, these are 2 papers. So 1 + 4 + 2, totally 7 papers. Each paper has 250 marks. So totaling 1750 marks. This is the real meat, where you can make or break your chances of entering into the civil services. If you qualify for the interviews, which means based on the mains exams, you have to qualify to the interview stage, the last stage. The interview or the personality test is for 275 marks. And the marks in the interview are added to your main score. So those of you who qualify to the interview stage will have to score well in the interview. And Shripati sir mentioned, what it takes to appear in an interview and, how you can score well, because that can become the, difference between making it to one service to the other or not making it at all. So all put together, 1750 plus 275, totally 2025 is the total marks. On an average, a student who can hope to get qualified into these civil services would get typically about 50 to 60% of marks. So it's a very low scoring examination. You generally don't score like centums and all that. You get about average 50, 55% marks only, but they are good enough for you to qualify. So therefore, you go through the syllabus. I always, what I used to do was, somebody asked a question, can you appear in your final year of your graduation? Yes, you can, but you have to ensure that when you write your preliminary examination, you should have passed your final year. So you can start the application process in your final year. I did that. A lot of people said I was very foolish, but in hindsight, I think I was fortunate because I got through in my first attempt. The reason being that you are very fresh from college. All your subjects are very fresh in your mind. I appeared with my own subject, physics. The level of competence was like about 80% of the syllabus was straight out of our syllabus, and about 20% was maybe from the MSc level, which means you need to do some extra reading, which is not very difficult because you are so much in the groove in the subject. So I don't see why there is any reason for anybody to give a gap year and study for this exam. Yes, it's very difficult because you have to manage your final year studies also, and you've got to prepare for your civils also. It's very, very taxing. I always say that the civil service exam is like a marathon race. You have to have that patience, that stamina to actually last for 1 year. It can be very, very mentally exhausting. And particularly if you've taken a new subject. I took history as a second optional. In those days, we used to have 2 optional subjects. And for me, history was what I had read in the school days. So, but I had to read BA level history, even MA level history, a lot of books to be read. And maybe in hindsight, I shouldn't have done it, but then, you know, I was just lucky. But then you have to choose your subjects very well. For that, you need to talk to people who know the civil services. Don't just go by your gut feeling or go by some rumors or by somebody who's uninformed. So planning for this exam is more important than preparing for the exam itself. You need to plan well. You need to choose your subjects, your optionals well. You need to find out which are the good resources, what books, what journals to read. And for heaven's sake, please, please, please don't neglect general studies. In our times, general studies were only 2 papers. Today, there are 4 papers. Of course, 3 are general knowledge and 1 is on ethics. But you need to spend a lot of time reading newspapers, listening to news, reading journals, meeting people, discussing every topic on earth. You have to be a jack of all trades. Don't think that you can mug up general knowledge by reading a few books and all. It won't help. It has to become part of your habit. So somebody asked a question on the chat, when do we really start preparing? I replied saying, from school. Okay, now you're not in school, you're in college. But even if you're in first year, it's never too late. Please start reading your general studies. Make it a habit, like you eat food and do your other ablutions. Do read anything that comes across. Don't read, of course, all the trash, the films and the other kind of stuff, but read serious stuff. Take interest in everything. Even though you may be an engineer, there's no harm in reading subjects relating to economics or on politics or on civics, because all these things are going to make or break your success percentage, your success probability in this exam. So you have to be really very well read, very well exposed. Now, unfortunately, in our education system, I know a lot of the students who come from colleges here, they are not having exposure. So therefore, it's the responsibility of the colleges to expose them, get people who can talk to them, send your students out to attend seminars, conferences, talks, give exposure. Unless you have that exposure, and secondly, you must be willing to discuss things. It's not enough that you just keep reading and keeping it within you. You must talk to people, hear their viewpoints, and then you will kind of come to some kind of an assimilation of ideas. It's a very, very long drawn battle. You have to plan well, and you have to have a good coach who can take you through. I really hope that PALS can provide that mentorship to students through individual colleges, because it's not easy by just mugging some subjects, as Sripati sir said. It's not possible to just mug up and expect that you can get selected. I'll stop at that, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
So there has been one question repeatedly about time management. If one of our esteemed panelists could share some thought on that, it would be really helpful for our students.
Okay, let me try to answer that question. I have not really seen what is the question, but what about time? I read somewhere
how do you manage? So it's like, how do you manage?
To start, yes. How to manage the time? Can we do it during the course of your study or during the job, etc.? I can only reiterate what Vikram sir has told. Civil services examination, cracking civil service examination now is quite different from cracking the engineering final exams. You can study overnight or last 1 week, etc., and you do in engineering. But I think now that is also becoming a little tougher. Civil services, you have to build up your base. The building can't be built in 1 day. You have to build your foundation, as Vikram sir says, right during the school days. I'll come to the time management in the end. You have to read newspaper. So the point I'm trying to say is, just to reiterate what he said and then also answer to you. You have to read newspaper right from your school days. If you have not done so, please do read newspaper now. Especially for those who are into civil services, read the center pages, the editorial pages, not just the editor's article, but all the other special articles also which are there on the newspaper. Those articles are important. So because an analysis of all the political or analysis of all the political, economic, and other issues of the day, they are all very important for cracking the civil services examinations. Okay, now coming to the one more thing I will like to highlight is, nowadays for those who are interested in the civil services, in the social media, especially in the YouTube, everyday current events analysis does come in the YouTube by analysis of the Hindu or analysis of the economics, economic times, etc. does come every day through say 15 to 20 minutes YouTube talk by some analysts of various institutes. Those who don't have time to read the paper while traveling, they can put their headphone on and listen to that. Walking, going to your college, you listen to that. That will slowly build up your base. So this also answers to my take on the time management. See, time, in my opinion, every day you have a student who starts preparing in the engineering college time itself. Every day, in my opinion, at least 2 to 3 hours one should spend in doing the reading. Maybe while going to the college or while traveling, listen to the news items. While traveling again, read the newspapers. But also you have to go through your all the, as sir said, Vikram sir said, there are now 4 papers, and all these papers are much more than what they were. The syllabus has actually been increasing across the years, and the questions as the year passes become more and more intricate. So a superficial reading of the things doesn't help. So the time management, in the sense that what I will suggest is, it will also answer those who are really interested in the civil services. Right from their final year onwards, they should start, or third year onwards also, they should start at least reading the newspapers and go one by one subject every day. Say Constitution, Indian history, Indian geography, Indian economy, Indian culture, all those subjects. You have to actually get the books, go to the website, which are the best books for the civil services besides NCERT. Get a list of those books. There are some standard authors and books which are more or less acclaimed by everybody, are the key books for every subject. Get those books, divide your time. If suppose you are having just 2 hours every day in your final year or pre-final year, those 2 hours, how you will spend in order to ensure that one reading of the subject you have made it before you go for serious reading. And when you have to go for your serious reading, my take on that is, you can't really do entirely along with your job. At least 2 to 3 months you have to sit at home and study. Those who really want to have a good job, good rank in your civil services. So coming back to going back to the time management issue, start from your third year and final year, read the newspapers, divide the subject, plan it accordingly, what you have to do in this month, etc. So that before you do your serious studying, you have gone through the entire set of material at least once. Then the second time, third time, when you sit at home after your college or before your exam, or you sit at home, if you are on a job, on a very heavy job, then you might have to take a leave. That is my personal opinion, for some time, 3 to 4 months, at least during this, especially after prelims. You clear the prelims and go for mains, you have to do that. Otherwise, if you are in a light job, you can do it along with your job itself. I took a job as a lecturer in engineering college after my BE, and that helped me in getting more time for this. So if you are having a light job, that's the answer to that. So systematically doing, and as the exams go nearby, spending the number of hours, more number of hours in the study, systematically doing, and also learning a lot from what others say in the social media about how to prepare. All these things will help to you. And I'll also like to answer those who are having somebody to guide. Yes, and in coaching center will may not help. Means you can yourself do your own self preparation. But if you are not having any guidance, some sort of a coaching center or a coaching teacher or somebody who can guide you through will be useful, so that your energy is well spent within the given time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm aware that we've overshot time, but there is one interesting question that I would definitely like to pose as the last question, and with your permission. Is it possible for NRI students to get into civil service? That is one of the questions that our audience have posed.
Yeah, Vikram has raised his hand. Vikram Kapoor.
Okay, I think I answered this to somebody on a private chat. Yes, NRIs can also participate. I mean, as long as you are having Indian citizenship, anybody can apply. But yes, as an NRI, if you are located abroad, there are some challenges in terms of getting access to resources. But these days of internet and all, that shouldn't be much of a problem. There was one question which a lot of the students are asking is, does it help to take coaching in Delhi? It's very contextual. I studied in Delhi and I never took any coaching, for the simple reason that the college I was in was itself like a coaching center. In fact, in Delhi University, there is one postgraduate men's hostel which is supposed to have more knowledge about civil service examination than UPSC. Now, that's a joke, but it's like, the cradle of civil servants. A lot of civil servants actually would have studied in that postgraduate, they would have stayed in that hostel, because there's so much of information available, so many people preparing. You have a very nice ecosystem. Everybody shares notes, you can discuss things. So if you have an environment in your present educational institution or in your place where there are other people who are studying and you have access to that information and knowledge, there's no need for coaching. But if you don't, I personally feel it may not be a bad idea to get some coaching, because more than anything, at least it can concentrate your energies in a right direction. Because there are so many books to read, there is so much material available. Just to find out what to select to read and assimilate itself is a challenge. So therefore, the coaching centers, for all what they do is to channelize your energies in the right direction. That's one. The other thing is that Delhi is not a panacea for all that. A lot of people send their children to Delhi to study, and they feel very lost out there. In Chennai or in Tamil Nadu, there are equally good coaching centers, and they have a fairly good success rate. If you can see, how many students get through. I don't want to give names, but there are several of them out here, and you can feel free to join them. Somebody asked a question: when should I join a coaching center? It's my call, but I think you should do not the year that you're appearing in, but perhaps a year earlier, maybe 2 years earlier, because you require that kind of planning and systematic preparation. So the earlier you do it, the better. So once the coaching center tells you what all to study, what resources to go to, how to attack the examination, then you can study at your own leisure. There is no formula as to how many hours you need to do. I mean, you could do something in 4 hours of study, what I do in 10 hours. So it's up to us. All of us are wired in a different manner. And everyone has a different style of preparation. Some people like to work on their own. Some would like to do in a group environment. It's your call. It's your take how you do it. But one thing I just want to mention, that it's good to be in touch with a network of people who are preparing. And thanks to now WhatsApp and so much social media, it's very easy to get connected to groups of people, irrespective of where they are located, so that you can share ideas with them, talk to them, and get a lot of information out, which may not be available in textbooks. So it's very important to stay connected with people. You may study on your own, but do have that connect with others who are similarly placed and having similar interests. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And a big thank you to all.
Can I just add to what has been said?
Sure, sir.
Joining, say, for example, in Madras, every other street has a coaching class, coaching center, things like that. Like Vikram said, there was only one institute known as Rao Study Circle in Delhi those days. Now in Chennai, every street corner has a coaching center. So if I use the word if once again, you choose to go for a coaching center, please be very, very careful about what you are going to get from that. It has now become a money spending venture in some of these institutions. Do not get into the Rasipuram syndrome. I suppose you understand what is this Rasipuram syndrome. Meaning people are taken to a particular coaching center and then drilled and drilled and drilled into them that you should answer like this, you should answer like that. Now why I'm telling this is, you go for an interview, some of these people who have gone through the coaching centers, they have a very, very typical attitude which is discernible. Like, for example, everybody comes with a blue shirt and a red tie. Okay, and so this kind of situations do arise because of the coaching centers. Be very choosy about the coaching center. It is required. And again, on the time, let me narrate a very small anecdote from the Zens. Like somebody who wanted to know what is the distance, how long it will take to cover a particular distance. This Zen guru just kept quiet. He got so wild, started walking. Then the Zen calls him and said, it will take only about half an hour. So he turns back and said, what the hell, why did you keep quiet? Without knowing your steps, how do I tell how long will you take? So this is exactly what Mr. Kapoor has said. It is up to you, your own speed, your own pace. You can try to memorize while you are walking. You can try to read while you are about to sleep. So these are all things. It's up to you. You plan. If you fail to plan, if you plan to fail, you will definitely fail. That is it. Please understand.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to all the esteemed panelists for patiently answering and throwing light on the questions and apprehensions of our audience. We had some brilliant words of wisdom shared here, and the way with which each facet was beautifully restructured, our students have definitely been enlightened. With that, we come to the end of our session today. Much that all of us would have loved this most invigorating and stimulating session to continue, constraints of time forces us to call curtains. I really did not realize the minutes passing by, and I can say with conviction that after interacting with such luminaries, all of us are that much more enlightened. We are indebted to each one of you for sparing time for us. The civil services is undoubtedly the bulwark of governance system of India, and to use a cliche, the steel frame of India. It is imperative that the very best of the best get inducted. Engineering students, with their natural flair for analytics and critical thinking, provide the ideal resource for our nation-building effort. I dare say that this session has been one little step in this direction. Our advice to all the students would be, prepare well to join the civil services because it gives you an opportunity to impact the lives of common people. This thought is best encapsulated in the words of Mahatma Gandhi: the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. What better way to follow the great man's words and also fulfill your personal aspirations than by joining the Indian Civil Services? I would like to thank all our esteemed panelists, pals, and most of all our viewers for making this event such a resounding success. Thank you and Jai Hind. Over to Mr. P.V. Mohan for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Annie. Sripati sir, Vikram sir, Bansal sir, Gagandeep Bedi sir, Dr. Malini Pandey, Dr. Charlie Jerome, and Dr. Annie Jacob. Thank you, panelists, for a fantastic session. The panelists have given all aspects of information regarding civil services which can empower and equip our students. Thank you very much. The panel has presented both sides of the picture, the scenarios faced in a civil services profession. This has been amply described by our IAS officers, and the faculty point of view on how to encourage civil service aspirants and motivate them. This aspect has come from our representative partner institution representatives. Thank you, Mohan Narayanan, our governing council member, for putting together this elite panel of IAS officers. And very grateful that they could find time from their busy schedules to spare their time with us. Thank you, Dr. Annie, for fantastic moderation role. We loved your questions and your very concise and precise summary of the deliberations. We thank the management, faculty, and students of our colleges, distinguished stakeholders and industry partners, as well as our alumni and core team members from PALS who are present in this webinar. We thank you, Sujata and PMO, for efficiently managing the session. The objectives of the PALS session has been realized today. As you know, the PALS Cares and Shares sessions are all looking at problems faced by faculty and students and how to address them by bringing expert panels together and getting them to address. I think in today's session also, all the panel members have done great justice to the subject. And I'm sure that the students who have attended this session would go back with a tremendous amount of information. And I hope that some of them might definitely have been motivated to choose the Indian civil services as their career. If that has happened, I think it has been a job well done by all today. Finally, stay safe and goodbye to all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, all the panelists.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Switching off.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you for the time that you have spent. And for all the participants, we have posted the feedback form. Please take few more minutes to give your valuable feedback.
Thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vikram sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pankaj, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj ji. Thank you.